He vanished 12 years ago. No body, no wallet, no footprints, nothing. And last Tuesday, he walked into my courtroom and sued his own wife. That line alone should have shattered the floor beneath us, but trust me, the story only gets worse from here. I'm attorney Lauren Blake, and before I open the door to this nightmare of a case, hit subscribe. Because this isn't just a legal mystery, this is the kind of story that changes the way you trust the people you love. The day this case began, I was sitting behind a pile of motions, half listening to the buzz of the courthouse hallways. A normal Tuesday. Rain tapping windows, printers whining, attorneys arguing about procedural nonsense. Ordinary chaos until my clerk barreled into my office like she had outrun a ghost. She slammed a file onto my desk so fast the pens rolled off the edge. "Lauren," she whispered, "you have to read this now." Her voice, steady on any other day, shook like it belonged to someone else. The folder was thin, one petition inside. No big deal, usually that meant a simple divorce, maybe a restraining order. But the second my eyes hit the name on the plaintiff line, my pulse stopped cold. Plaintiff, Andrew Calloway. Defendant, Emily Calloway. Date of marriage, 2010. Cause, dissolution. My throat tightened. I had worked on missing person cases before, but this one was personal to the entire community. Andrew disappeared in October 2013. He left work at 6:12 p.m. Cameras caught him getting into his car. Then he evaporated from the world. No traffic cameras, no phone activity, no credit card charges. His car was never found. Search teams combed forests, rivers, highways, nothing. By 2019, Emily had no choice but to legally acknowledge what everyone feared. He wasn't coming home. Yet here I was staring at his signature. Bold, clean, the exact looping style he used when he signed for their mortgage. The signature Emily showed detectives 100 times. The signature I watched her clutch through tears when she tried to prove he wouldn't just walk away. I called the clerk who received the filing. She said something I'll never forget. "Lauren," he looked right at me. He knew exactly what he was doing. He wasn't confused or scared. He signed every page without hesitation. "I swear it was him." Her voice cracked like she was terrified of sounding insane. But she wasn't the only one. 30 minutes later, Emily stumbled into my office. Not walked. Stumbled, like her legs forgot how to hold her. Her hair was pulled into a messy knot, like she ran out the door without thinking. She still wore the necklace Andrew gave her. She never took it off, even after the declaration of death. She held a photo of him from 2013, thumb rubbing the corner raw. The moment she saw his name on the paperwork, her knees buckled against the chair. "Lauren, please tell me this is impossible." Her voice cracked open like a wound that had never healed. I showed her the signature. Her breath left her body in one painful burst. "That's him," she whispered. "That's Andrew, but he's gone. I know he's gone. I felt it." She wasn't talking about evidence. She was talking about the invisible thread that ties you to someone you love. A thread she swore snapped the night he vanished. I asked her the question every lawyer hates asking. "Is there any chance he left on his own? That he walked away from you?" Emily shot me a look that didn't just say no, it screamed it. "He wouldn't leave me?" She pressed a hand to her stomach. "Lauren, I was pregnant when he disappeared. He didn't know, and he would have never ever left our baby." The world tilted again. Her daughter Lily was 11 now. She had grown up without a father, believing he was gone forever. Emily had raised her alone, working 2 jobs, sleeping 4 hours a night, never dating, never moving on, because part of her still held a candle for the man she loved. And now he had returned with a lawsuit. The cruelty was unbearable. I needed answers. So I asked the clerk for courthouse footage. If Andrew walked in, the cameras would show it. But Emily grabbed my wrist before I left. "If it's him, if he's alive, why didn't he come home? Why didn't he see Lily? Why didn't he call me?" The agony in her voice could have shattered glass. I didn't know what to say. Lawyers are supposed to hold their emotions like shields, but this case hit places that law school can't prepare you for. I squeezed her hand. "Emily, we will find the truth. I promise you that." But the truth was already bending around us. Because when we pulled the courthouse surveillance footage frame by frame, something was horribly wrong. The petition was filed. The clerk talked to him. The paperwork had a timestamp. Everything about the filing was real except one thing. The cameras never captured his face, not once, not a single angle. He was always behind someone, turning away, stepping out of frame, like he knew exactly where every camera was. People don't avoid cameras by accident, not after 12 years missing. Someone was hiding, someone was planning, and someone wanted Emily to see that signature. Little did we know this was only the first document he filed. And the second one would blow the entire case open. Everything in me wanted to believe we were dealing with a simple clerical error, a case of mistaken identity, maybe even a cruel impersonation. But the courthouse footage eliminated all those possibilities. Because the man who filed the petition didn't behave like someone returning from the dead. He behaved like someone who had been planning this for years. I sat shoulder to shoulder with Emily in the dim file review room, the glow of the security monitor flickering across her tear-stained face. I slowed the footage to half speed, then quarter, then frame by frame, and each frame made my stomach twist tighter. At 9:17 a.m., a tall man entered the courthouse lobby. He wore a charcoal coat, hood down, collar raised. His posture was stiff, straight-backed, controlled. He hovered near a group of people walking through the metal detectors, using their bodies to block the camera. Perfectly timed, perfectly executed. He waited, then moved. Always at the right second, always slipping just beyond the camera's reach. He kept his face angled down like he had memorized every camera location, like he had studied the building. Beside me, Emily whispered, "Andrew never moved like that, never." Her voice wasn't scared now, it was uncertain, confused, almost betrayed. Footage continued. 9:20 a.m. the man approached the filing window. The clerk leaned in to speak to him. She nodded, typed, handed him a pen. He signed the petition. But even here inside this small, unassuming office, the man positioned himself with surgical precision so both ceiling cameras caught only the back of his head. He signed, he handed the pages back, he thanked her. Then he walked out. No hesitation, no fear, no looking over his shoulder. People who vanish for a decade don't return with this level of confidence. Unless they don't think they were ever gone. I turned to Emily. This behavior, it's intentional. She clenched her jaw. If that's Andrew, why is he hiding from cameras? Why hide from me, from Lily? Her breathing quickened, panic rising. Lauren, what if it's not him? What if this is some twisted identity theft? I shook my head. Identity theft doesn't work like this. Whoever filed this had access to Andrew's social security number, to his old driver's license number, to his marriage certificate. They had his exact signature, they knew details that were never public. Then I paused, because something felt wrong. Very wrong. If this man could avoid every camera, then why file publicly at all? Why come to the courthouse himself? What was he trying to show us? I murmured. Emily stared at me. What do you mean? He showed his body, his height, his posture, his build. He showed enough to make you believe it's him, but not enough to prove it completely. I tapped the screen. This was deliberate, controlled, performed. Her eyes widened. Performed for who? I didn't get to answer. Because at that moment, the clerk rushed back into the room with a new file in her hand, her expression drained of color. Attorney Blake, you need to see this immediately. She handed me another black folder, thicker this time, freshly time-stamped. Filed by Andrew Calloway, time 9:26 a.m., 7 minutes after the divorce petition. I opened it slowly. Inside were documents no missing person should ever have access to. Frozen bank accounts, insurance policies, property deeds, a list of offshore transactions dating back 8 years. And right on top of the stack, something that made my breath stick in my throat, a sworn affidavit. Signed, stamped, notarized. A statement from Andrew claiming Emily had concealed assets, committed fraud, and owed him restitution for financial misconduct throughout the marriage. Emily snatched the papers. What fraud? Andrew would never. Why would he even? None of this makes sense. Her hands trembled so violently the pages fluttered like broken wings. This isn't about divorce, I said softly. He's not here for closure. He's here to accuse you of something. But I didn't do anything, Emily cried. I spent the last 12 years barely surviving. Why would he attack me? The clerk took a shaky breath. There's something else, Lauren. He also requested a hearing. My chest tightened. When? She swallowed hard. 3 days from now, and he insisted on being there in person. The room fell silent. Emily went pale, like every drop of blood slipped from her body at once. He wants me in the same room, she murmured. Why? What does he want from me? I didn't answer. Because in that moment I wasn't wondering what Andrew wanted. I was wondering whether the man who filed these papers was even Andrew at all. And if he wasn't, then someone else had been living as him, someone who knew his past, someone who knew his wife, someone who had a reason to destroy her, someone who waited 12 years to step into his life. The room felt colder. Not physically, emotionally. Like something unseen had slipped in with that second folder and pressed its hands around Emily's throat. She stared at the affidavit, eyes darting over accusations that didn't just challenge her character, they rewrote her entire marriage. Fraud, concealment, hidden income, offshore accounts, all false, yet typed with certainty, signed with Andrew's name, but there was something else in her expression, something beyond fear, recognition. She sank slowly into the chair, fingers gripping the affidavit until the paper threatened to tear. Lauren, this handwriting, the way he phrased these lines, I've seen this before. Her voice was a whisper dragged over broken glass. This isn't Andrew's voice, he never spoke like this. These legal terms, these accusations, he wouldn't even know how to phrase them. I lined in. Emily, what are you saying? She swallowed hard. There was something strange that happened before he disappeared. Something I never connected until now. Her hands trembled. 3 months before Andrew vanished, someone opened a credit line in his name. He told me it was a bank error. He spent days on the phone trying to clear it, but he never let me hear the calls. He always stepped outside or waited until I left for work. I froze. Did he ever resolve it? No, she whispered. And then weird letters started showing up. Notices from accounts he didn't open. Insurance quotes he didn't request. At first he burned them, then he stopped opening them at all. She shook her head slowly, like remembering hurt. But I never thought someone was using his identity. I thought he was just stressed. Identity theft, but not the casual, opportunistic kind. This was slow, deliberate, long-term. Someone had planted seeds years before Andrew vanished. I exhaled. Emily, if someone was using Andrew's identity back then, it's possible that person resurfaced now, pretending to be him. That's what I thought at first, she whispered. But then the clerk saw him. She said he looked like Andrew. Same height, same build, same posture. Her eyes flickered, haunted. What if this isn't a stranger pretending to be him? What if this is someone he knew, someone who looked like him? Someone who could pass for him? Her words sent a chill down my spine. People don't just vanish for 12 years and return with a plan unless they aren't acting alone. I took the affidavit back and scanned every page. That's when something caught my eye, a short line buried in the middle of the document, a reference number, a bank code, but not one I recognized. What is this? I murmured, tapping the line. Emily leaned in. I've never seen that before. I typed the number into the state banking directory, nothing, national database, nothing, international index. And then it appeared, not a bank account. A shell corporation, registered 8 years ago. Under Andrew Calloway's name, and the address listed, a rental property Andrew had leased for 3 months before he married Emily, a place she didn't even know existed. Her voice broke. Lauren, what is that? Why would he have that? I stared at the screen. Emily, this corporation, it was used to transfer money internationally. She shook her head. No, Andrew didn't know anything about international finance. He was a middle school teacher. He graded papers on weekends. He didn't even like online banking. Someone used his identity long before he disappeared, I said gently. Someone who understood how to hide money. Someone who needed a clean identity. Emily wiped tears with the back of her hand. But why Andrew? Why him? I hesitated, because the truth forming in my mind terrified even me. Emily, I think Andrew may have discovered someone using his identity. I paused, and I think he confronted the wrong person. Her face went white. You think that's why he disappeared? I nodded, slowly. I think your husband didn't run away. I think he was running from something. Her breathing turned shallow, fast, uneven. Then the man who came back, the one who filed these documents, is someone who has spent years living behind Andrew's name, I finished. Someone who doesn't want to lose that identity, and filing this case wasn't about you, Emily. It was about establishing control. Her voice trembled. Control over what? I met her eyes. Over Andrew's life, his death, his assets, his history, and whatever he was involved in before he disappeared. Emily's tears stopped not from comfort but from terror, real, instinctive terror. Lauren, she whispered. If someone took over Andrew's life, where does that leave my husband? I didn't answer, because there were only 2 possibilities. Either Andrew had been alive all these years and someone had been using him, or Andrew had been dead all these years and someone had been using his identity. And both possibilities meant the same thing. The man who walked into the courthouse wasn't looking for a divorce. He was setting a trap, and Emily was the bait. By the time we left the courthouse, the affidavit felt like it weighed 100 pounds. Not because of the paper, it was the implications. Every accusation inside it pointed to a truth we didn't have yet, a truth Andrew never told Emily, a truth someone else might have been living inside for years. But one detail stood out above everything else. The Shell Corporation was tied to an old rental property Andrew used before their marriage. A place Emily had never seen. A place no one had thought about since his disappearance. That made it our next stop. The house sat 30 minutes outside the city, tucked behind a line of tall sycamores that looked like they were trying to hide it. The moment we pulled up, I felt the unease settle into my bones. The property was supposed to be abandoned, 12 years untouched, but the air around it felt wrong. Damp. Watched. The house was small, a single-story structure with faded blue siding and a porch sagging under its own weight. Windows clouded with dust, a mailbox overflowing with old flyers. Everything screamed of neglect except one thing, the lock on the front door. It was new, very new. Emily noticed it first. "Lauren, that's not the lock Andrew had." She reached out, fingertips trembling above the metal. "Someone's been here recently." I pointed at the ground. "Look, footprints, not old, not washed by rain. Deep, distinct, leading directly to the door and back toward the trees." Emily backed up, heart racing. "Oh my God, what if he's here right now?" I didn't let the hope in her voice get too loud. Hope could be dangerous in cases like these. "We don't know who's been using this place," I said gently. "It could be Andrew, or it could be the person who stole his identity." She swallowed hard. "Or the person who killed him?" The words hung in the air like smoke. I walked the perimeter of the house, noticing little details no abandoned home should have: fresh cigarette butts, a water bottle not yet sun-cracked, a tarp recently shifted as though someone had used it for cover. Whoever was coming here, they weren't homeless. They weren't squatting. They were operating. Emily stood at the corner of the house, staring at a window cracked open half an inch. "Someone's ventilating the place," she whispered. "Why would they need airflow?" I didn't have time to answer. That's when I saw it, a faint glow coming from inside. Not a lamp, not a candle. A small LED light, the kind used on portable hard drives or routers. "We're not breaking in," I said, stepping back. "If someone is inside, we need a legal warrant, but we can gather observations from outside." Emily nodded, but she looked sick, like her memories were fighting with reality. "Andrew lived here while he saved money for our future. He said it was temporary. He told me it was a mess and he didn't want me to see it. I thought he was embarrassed." Her breath shook. But he wasn't embarrassed. He was hiding something. A car passed on the road, just a blur of headlights. But the moment it did, something inside the house shifted. A shadow, a movement, not clear enough to identify but enough to freeze us where we stood. "Lauren," Emily's voice was paper-thin. "Someone's in there." We stepped back slowly, calculating distance, exits, options. If it was Andrew, why hide? If it wasn't Andrew, then who had lived his life for 12 years? And why were they still using his property? I pulled Emily toward the car. "We need drones, we need official surveillance. We need to see the layout from above before we go further." But right before we left, I noticed something faint in the dirt, a series of tire tracks leading behind the property toward the woods. I followed them with my eyes until they vanished into the dark. Not random tire marks, repeated ones. Someone drove here often. Someone who knew no one would check this place. Someone who had something to lose if Emily learned the truth. As we pulled away, Emily stared out the window, whispering to herself more than to me. If Andrew didn't come home, maybe he never left this life. I didn't tell her the part that terrified me most. If the man who returned had been using Andrew's identity for years, he might not be trying to destroy Emily. He might be trying to erase the last person who knew the real Andrew at all. And the next step in unraveling this truth would happen in the air, through the drone footage that would show us what the house itself was hiding. Reed launched the drone from the back of his surveillance van, its propellers slicing through the still morning air as it rose above the sycamores. Emily and I sat behind him, eyes locked on the glowing monitor. I could feel her pulse from across the narrow space, sharp, uneven, terrified. She kept whispering, "Please don't let him be dead. Please don't let this be a grave." Her mind had already run ahead to the darkest place. I wasn't sure the truth wasn't darker. The drone hovered above the rental property, steady and silent. From above, the house looked even more wrong. The roof wasn't just neglected, it had been altered. Patches of shingles had been removed. A section of the roofline had been reinforced with metal panels. Someone had modified this structure, someone preparing it for long-term use. "Zoom in on the roof," I said. Reed angled the camera downward. Emily leaned closer, both hands gripping her knees. At first, all we saw were shadows, harmless, ordinary, but then something moved. A split second, a blur but unmistakable. Pause. "Rewind 2 frames, I ordered, my voice sharper than intended. Reed rewound, paused, zoomed, and we saw it. A figure, dark, crouched, pressed low against the roof, slipping out of view as if it sensed the drone before we even noticed. Emily covered her mouth. "Someone's up there," she breathed. Someone was watching the house, watching us. It wasn't Andrew, that much I knew. The shape was wrong, too lean, too quick, too practiced. This wasn't a frightened, missing husband hiding from the world. This was someone who knew how to avoid detection. "Go around the perimeter," I said. Reed flew the drone in a wide arc. The figure had vanished, leaving behind nothing but a ripple of displaced dust where weight had shifted moments before. Then the camera picked up something else, something even more unsettling. A ladder. A metal ladder thrown hastily to the ground on the far side of the house. Fresh scrape marks on the siding. Whoever had been on the roof climbed down fast the moment the drone approached. They weren't surprised. They were prepared. Emily's voice cracked. "Lauren, if someone's been living here, if someone has been using Andrew's identity, why hide from a drone? Why hide from us? Why not just walk in and confront us?" I stared at the screen. "Because, Emily, whoever this is, they don't want to be seen, not until they decide it's time." Reed swung the drone lower toward the back of the house, and there, half buried under a rotting plank, was a small metal case. Reed zoomed. "What is that?" The metal was rusted around the edges, but the lock was new, same kind of lock that had been installed on the front door. Emily whispered, "Andrew had a case like that. He used it for work documents." Reed angled the camera again. This time we caught something we weren't supposed to see. Behind the house, masked by thick brush, sat a vehicle, not a car, a black SUV with the plates removed. Dust on the windows, mud splatter on the sides. A tire tread identical to the tracks I noticed hours earlier. Someone had been coming here, often, recently. Reed muttered, "That's not abandoned, that's operational." Emily grabbed my arm. "Lauren, if this person has been watching the house, then they know we came today." Her panic wasn't paranoia. It was logic. Whoever climbed that roof had seen us drive up earlier, had seen us walk the perimeter, had watched us leave. The drone circled back for one more sweep, and that's when we saw it. A symbol, spray-painted beneath the eaves on a section of wood we missed before. A clean, sharp mark, 3 vertical lines crossed by a single horizontal slash. Emily recoiled. "That symbol that was on the envelope Andrew received before he disappeared. I thought it was graffiti." My chest tightened. "Emily, this isn't graffiti, this is a tag, a sign." "An identifier? Identifier for what?" she asked. "For a group," I said softly. "Or a network, something Andrew got caught in, something that took his identity long before he vanished." Emily's breathing shattered. "Lauren, if this group had Andrew before he disappeared, if they were using him, what if he didn't run away? What if he tried to escape them?" The question hung in the air, heavy and horrifying. Because if Andrew tried to escape them, if he fought back, if he uncovered the shell corporation they built in his name, then there was only one reason that someone using his identity would come back 12 years later. Not for closure. Not for divorce, not for Emily, but for unfinished business. Someone had a reason to erase the last threads of Andrew's real life. Someone who would not want Emily digging deeper. And the drone had just confirmed one chilling fact. Someone was already watching her do it. The symbol under the eaves stayed burned into my mind long after the drone battery died. 3 vertical lines crossed by 1 horizontal slash. Not random, not accidental. A signature, a brand. Emily's hands shook as she traced the air with it, as if remembering something she tried to forget. "Lauren, that symbol, Andrew got mail with it, twice, before he disappeared." I nodded. It wasn't graffiti. It was a warning, or a mark. I didn't want to say the word ownership. As the sun dipped lower behind the trees, we returned to my office. I ordered the drone operator to save every frame. Emily sat across from me, eyes hollow but burning with terror. She kept whispering, "Someone else was there, someone saw us." She wasn't wrong. I uploaded the footage into our database, letting the system analyze objects, faces, vehicles, anything identifiable. The SUV behind the house was first. No plates, no registration, no VIN visible, purposefully obscured, typical of someone who never wants to be found. Then the house, every window, every shadow, every angle. Nothing human appeared after that roof figure vanished. But there was something in the data that made my blood freeze. A movement log. The drone had thermal sensors. They detected heat signatures, one from the roof, one inside the house. But there was a third. Emily leaned forward. Third person where? I enlarged the image. The heat signature wasn't human-shaped. Not standing, not crouched, it was low, lying down, buried. Emily's breath hitched. No, no, Lauren, please don't say it's a body. I shook my head. It's not the right shape, but it's something hidden, something underground. I scanned deeper, a trapdoor. Barely visible from above, covered by dead leaves, a metal panel, and carefully arranged debris. Someone went to extreme lengths to hide it. That's not just a hideout, I murmured. That's an access point. A basement or bunker, Emily whispered. Andrew never told me anything about a basement. That's because he didn't know, I said. This wasn't built by him, this was built by whoever used his identity. Reed sent me a text moments later. You need to see this, found something in public archives. I opened the link, property records, purchase history, rental contracts, and then buried 9 pages in something that made my stomach drop. Andrew wasn't the only renter associated with that property. Before him, another name appeared, with the same symbol written next to it in the landlord's notes. Name, Thomas Hale, renter from 2008-2010. Last rent paid. October 14. Status, lost contact. No forwarding address, no official missing person report, no family listed, no follow-up. He simply disappeared from the records. Emily gasped. Who is that? Why didn't anyone report him missing? I stared at the screen. Because whoever took him didn't want anyone to report him. She grabbed my wrist. Lauren, are you saying what I think you're saying? I exhaled slowly. Emily, this property has 2 consecutive tenants who vanished without a trace, both connected to the same symbol, both tied to the same identity structure, both erased from their lives. Her eyes filled. Then Andrew didn't disappear because he wanted to, he disappeared because someone else did this before. I nodded. And whoever took Thomas Hale took Andrew next. Emily shook her head violently. Why? Why would someone steal their identities? Why target ordinary men? They weren't rich, they weren't criminals, they were just... That's why, I cut in. They were clean, quiet, easy to impersonate. Ideal for someone who needed a new identity that wouldn't raise questions. Emily stared at me, shaking, trembling. So the man who came to the courthouse, the man who filed those papers, might have been using multiple stolen identities for years, I finished softly. Andrew wasn't the first, and he wasn't the last. Emily covered her mouth. Oh God, does that mean Andrew could still be alive somewhere? I didn't answer right away, her eyes filled again. Lauren, if someone has been living as him and he found out, maybe they didn't kill him, maybe they kept him. I looked at the footage on the screen, the heat signatures, the trapdoor, the SUV, the symbol. If Andrew confronted the wrong network, if he discovered what they were doing, if he tried to expose them, they wouldn't kill him. Not immediately, they'd need him, his biometrics, his information, his identity, and the man at the courthouse. He wasn't trying to divorce Emily. He was trying to sever every legal tie Andrew ever had to erase the real Andrew permanently. Because you can't impersonate someone who still exists on paper. And the person who filed those documents knew that better than anyone. Emily sat frozen, staring at the heat signatures on the monitor as if the truth might rearrange itself if she waited long enough. But nothing changed. Not the trapdoor, not the hidden SUV, not the symbol burned into the wood. And definitely not the name, Thomas Hale, the man who vanished before Andrew ever lived in that house. 2 disappearances, 2 identities stolen. Same symbol, same pattern, same method. Emily finally whispered, "This wasn't random. Andrew didn't just get unlucky, someone chose him." I didn't respond immediately. Because the next thing I had to show her would destroy the last pieces of denial she was holding onto. Emily, there's something else. My voice felt heavy, too heavy. She blinked at me, trembling. What is it? I pulled up the landlord's archived notes, scanned by the county nearly a decade ago. At first, they seemed harmless. Dates, maintenance requests, rent receipts. But one torn entry, barely legible, stood out. A scribbled line written before Andrew moved in next to Thomas Hale's final entry told me he's not alone here. Same woman keeps asking for him, tall, dark coat, same symbol on her bag. Emily's breath collapsed. A woman asking for him? What woman? I enlarged the scan. The handwriting was messy, rushed, almost frantic. But another detail hit harder. The note was dated February 2010. The same month Andrew and Emily first met. She shook her head. No, Andrew and I met at a fundraiser. He wasn't involved in anything like this. She squeezed her temples. I would have known, I would have felt it. I leaned forward. Emily, what if the person asking for Thomas wasn't looking for him? She stared at me, confused. What if she was looking for the next person, the next identity, the next clean life to steal? Emily recoiled as if struck. Stop, Lauren, please stop. That means, she swallowed hard. That means I was never random. That I was part of their plan. I didn't want to confirm it, but the evidence left no room for mercy. Emily, the timing aligns too perfectly. The symbol appears at the property months before Andrew disappeared. That same symbol appeared on envelopes he received. You said Andrew became withdrawn around that time, and now we know someone, a woman, was circling the property. Her eyes filled. So Andrew wasn't chosen. We were not chosen for love, not chosen by fate, chosen by someone who needed a life that looked clean, normal, quiet. I brought up the second document Andrew, or the imposter, filed. The affidavit claiming Emily committed fraud. That detail had bothered me since the moment I read it, but now I understood. Emily, this affidavit wasn't meant to attack you. She looked up, broken. Then why file it? To sever you from Andrew's identity, to make sure you have no legal claim, no standing, no voice when they erase him. Why erase him? Her voice trembled. Because an identity is only useful as long as it's unquestioned. If someone is impersonating Andrew, they can't risk you discovering who really filed those documents. She covered her mouth. Oh God. They're trying to make it look like I did something wrong. I nodded, slowly. If they discredit you, no one will believe you if you claim Andrew was being impersonated. They're isolating you. She shook her head violently. But why attack me now, after 12 years? I pulled up the most recent discovery. This was the part that made my pulse pound. The shell corporation tied to Andrew, I said quietly, was activated again 6 months ago. Emily froze. Activated for what? For a transaction? I turned the screen toward her, a wire transfer. Large, international, sent to the same symbol listed as a coded beneficiary, but the sender information, that was the breaking point. The form listed Emily Calloway as the one who authorized the transfer, her face drained of all color. I didn't do that, I swear, Lauren, I swear. I know, my voice softened. I know you didn't, so why would they put my name on it? Because they weren't targeting Andrew this time. I looked her dead in the eyes. They were building an identity using your name. Emily slumped back in her chair, tears pooling and spilling over. No, they're going to make me disappear, just like Andrew, just like that other man. And then came the moment that twisted the knife further. Reed stepped back into the room with a small plastic evidence bag. I found this, he said, behind the rental property, fresh, like someone left it there today. Inside the bag was a slip of paper, folded, crisp, deliberate. Emily's hands shook as she unfolded it. The same symbol, 3 vertical lines. 1 horizontal slash, and beneath it, handwritten in sharp, precise letters, SHE was chosen first. Emily's scream wasn't loud, it was quiet, small. The sound of a soul realizing the truth her marriage wasn't a love story. It was an assignment, a setup, a countdown, and whoever had impersonated Andrew had been waiting 12 years to finish what they started. The slip of paper with the words SHE was chosen first didn't just frighten Emily, it detonated something inside her. All the fear from the past 12 years surged forward at once. She wasn't paranoid. She wasn't imagining anything. Someone had always been watching her, long before Andrew disappeared, long before she even met him. And that meant the imposter, the man who walked into court pretending to be her dead husband, hadn't resurfaced to confront her. He resurfaced because she was finally close to the truth. I locked the office door, every instinct screaming that we were running out of time. Emily, listen to me, whoever did this is escalating. They don't want you alive long enough to contradict their story. She shook her head violently, tears streaking down her cheeks. But I didn't do anything. Why me? Why was I chosen? I hesitated, because I wanted to lie. I wanted to give her a softer truth, but Emily wasn't the kind of client you lie to, not now, not with everything crumbling. You were chosen, I said quietly, because you were the perfect alibi. Her breath caught. Andrew had a clean background, so did the man before him, but you, Emily, you were the variable. The one thing no one questioned. The one thing that made Andrew's disappearance look tragic instead of criminal. You gave the imposter credibility. She wrapped her arms around herself. I was used. No, I corrected. You were exploited. Reed burst into the office then, pale, breathless, holding his tablet with shaking hands. Lauren, Emily, you need to see this. Drone footage, the rental property, the heat signatures. But now the thermal image at the trapdoor was gone. Someone had moved. Whoever was inside, Reed whispered, they left. Minutes ago, Emily gripped the edge of the desk. Where did they go? We didn't get to answer, because right then every monitor in my office flickered. Static washed across the screens. A gut-wrenching shriek of feedback filled the room, then silence. And someone else's voice, a man's voice, calm, deep, too familiar. Emily, you shouldn't have looked. Emily screamed and stumbled back. That's him, that's Andrew's voice, but it's not him, it's not him. The screens flickered again, and now we saw him. The imposter, standing in the rental house, staring directly into the drone camera, unmasked, unhidden, smiling. He looked like Andrew but wrong, too sharp around the jaw, too lean around the cheeks. His eyes were darker, older. But the resemblance was impossible to ignore. He leaned closer to the camera. You weren't supposed to be part of this anymore. Emily covered her ears. Stop, stop. Then his tone changed, cold, final, but you kept looking. And now we have to finish what started in 2013. The feed cut to black, my heart thundered. He's still at the property, we need to move now. But before we even left the office, the building's fire alarm blared to life. Reed's head snapped up. That's not a drill, someone triggered it. The hallway lights flickered. Emergency exits buzzed open. Someone had forced their way inside. I grabbed Emily. Stay behind me, don't speak. Don't run unless I tell you. She nodded, shaking uncontrollably. We stepped into the hallway, and he was there, the imposter, standing at the far end. Still, silent, watching. He didn't run toward us, he didn't attack, he didn't need to. He just lifted one hand and pointed slowly right at Emily. Then he said the words that ended every doubt. He died protecting you. Emily collapsed. A sob tore from her chest. Andrew is dead. You killed him, the imposter tilted his head. Killed? No, Andrew made his own choice. He understood what we needed. He understood what you were worth. Her voice broke. Worth? What does that mean? He took one slow step forward. You were the first identity we needed, the cleanest, the quietest, the perfect foundation. Andrew offered himself so you wouldn't be taken. Emily's hands covered her mouth. No, that's not true. He loved me. He loved our baby. He did, the imposter said. Enough to disappear for you, enough to give us what we needed, enough to let you live. Emily crumpled. Then why come back? Why now? Why try to erase me? The imposter's face hardened. Because you aren't supposed to exist anymore. Before he could move again, the SWAT team I had discreetly alerted during the alarm stormed the hallway. Flashlights, shields. Commands shouted. The imposter ran, swift, practiced, but this time he didn't get away. They caught him, dragged him down, unmasked him. And that's when the final truth hit. He wasn't Andrew, he never had been. He was the handler, the one who managed the stolen identities, the one who recruited victims, the one who erased them. But worst of all, he wasn't working alone. In interrogation, he said one final sentence that will haunt me for the rest of my career. We still need her, she was chosen for a reason. Emily broke down in the hallway. I held her as she cried, but the truth was merciless. Andrew died protecting his wife and unborn child from a network that wanted to own their lives. And now that network knew Emily had survived, and they weren't done with her, not even close.